Welcome back to True Rhymes. Here we are at season 2. Well, I reckon that's pretty cool because that means we're having a sequel. It's amazing when you're trying to research rhymes just how blooming involved it can get. There's so many different options that you can have over 500 years. But here at the True Rhyme Show, we're going to get to the bottom of it just for you. Tonight I thought we'd have a look at Sing a Song of Sixpence, a Pocket Full of Rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. So if you don't remember the Sing a Song of Sixpence, a Pocket Full of Rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie, hang on, I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I can't remember it exactly verbatim. That's a very fancy word, isn't it? Verbatim. But anyway, here we go. Sing a Song of Sixpence, a Pocket Full of Rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds were baked in a pie. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing. Wasn't that a dainty dish set before the king? King was in his counting house, counting out his money. The Queen was in the parlour. She was eating bread and honey, which is kind of cool. The maid was in the garden hanging out the clothes, and when came down a blackbird and pecked off her nose. And shortly after that came a little wren and put her on a chair and put her nose back on again. Unbelievable. I'm thinking to myself, how come it goes through life? The king's counting money, the queen's eating honey, the poor old maid's the one that gets her nose pecked off. I mean, it just doesn't seem right, does it? I mean, honestly, could you imagine what the bloody health inspectors would say if you were down the pub and a live bird flew out of a pie? I mean, holy hell, what a bloody mess. Never to mention about the animal rights people, they would have a bloody fit. You imagine that? They used to bake pigs in pies and all sorts of crazy ass shit. And even every now and then they'd put a dwarf in there just to better themselves. I mean, it was insanity. The original idea was to outdo each other. So in the original format, I think they were called in treatments or some bloody thing, and it was like fancy little food sculptures like castles and horses on fucking pigs' backs and shit. And of course, the aristocracy, or the rich people of the day, they couldn't help themselves, so they just wanted to better each other. And so eventually, what the hell happened? We baked birds in a bloody pie, for God's sake. I mean, that's just bonkers. But anyway, I guess that's where we got girls popping out of cakes and shit long term, but it's a bit crazy when you think about it. Anyway, what rich people will do, it's nuts. Because I thought it was very interesting through history, you could actually read about Edward Teach. He was the man, apparently, that was an inspiration for 4 and 20 blackbirds. Now, you might know Edward Teach is a little bit more like Blackbeard the pirate. I mean, that's a bit better call a name, isn't it? I was kind of thinking, even back then, what was that, in the 1700s, they would manage to actually come up with a cool name. I mean, Edward Teach wouldn't put the bloody fear of God in you, would it? But Blackbeard rolls up on you and you go, holy shit, I don't think that's very good. I mean, you can imagine. You know, Blackbeard sounds cool. The owner of the ship was Benjamin Hornigold. I mean, Hornigold is not going to put a fear of God. He probably could have just edited that little bit and Horny for Gold, maybe, or, I don't know, Horn Gold or something. But anyway, it's interesting how even in history we're actually ability to change our names to sound cool. And I'm not going to have a dig at all the acting people out there that have changed their names so you can remember them. The other thing I thought was cool was Blackbeard apparently used to pay his sailors, or pirates, he used to give them 6pence a day. So that's where the whole sixpence came into the story. So he was one of the few captains of a pirate ship that would actually pay his men, rather than saying, well, if we happen to capture something, you can share the spoils. And the other thing was, when it talks about a pocket full of rye, apparently that was about the fact that every day they would get a serving of rum. Of course, you know, the song is sort of about rum in a bottle, but they got a pocket full, so I'm tipping that they had a little hip flask that they could fill up, or maybe a cup. But anyway, and then the other thing is talking about when the king was in his counting house was, of course, that would have been Blackbeard himself, when he'd captured a ship, and he would be in the bloomin' captain's cabin counting out all the gold and, well, who knows, he might have had a few other things in there that he was counting, but anyway, he was counting all the stuff that he'd captured, just to fill out the story. The bloody ship was Anne's Revenge, which was a queen. So there you go. So we had Blackbeard the king, and we had the ship as the queen, and we had the people on the ship getting paid a 6pence and drinking rum. rye in the story. And the other interesting thing I thought, this is the bit I thought was really cool, was the fact that the poor old maid hanging out the washing was actually a reference to when they put the sails up and the ship took off across the ocean, which if you ever had a bloody sheet out in the wind, you would realise just how much draw they had. It's pretty incredible. So that at least made the maid not getting too punished. And of course, when they actually got the maid out there and pecking off the nose was when they captured a ship. And of course, I guess, scuttled it and took all the bits and pieces that they really wanted. Mr. Hornigold would have been sitting at home saying, "Woo, here comes Blackbeard with another chest full of gold just for me. Look at that, sailing Anne across the ocean. My God." There's a real possibility that Blackbeard and Hornigold were not involved in this sixpence at all. But hell, it sounds good to me. I reckon it's great. That was the best one I read. And I thought, ever who dreamt all that shit up deserves a shout out here on the True Rhyme Show. The interesting thing about this sixpence song, or the bloody sing-a-song of sixpence, the pocket full of rye and the blackbirds and the whole deal, it really apparently hasn't changed a hell of a lot until they, the only thing that scrubbed out was the naughty boys in the pie, put the blackbirds in. So that's not bad, is it? 300-400 years on and the song didn't change. And I tell you what, you probably even are singing that to your own kids in your little nursery rhyme. If you'd like to see this show survive, don't forget to click, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Hell, everybody should have a laugh because this world's getting out of control. So, you know what? And if you feel so inclined, go down a little bit further and click on the Patreon support button and you never know what the hell we might research. If you happen to feel so inclined to get really generous on the Patreon and you give us enough money, you could send us a request to research a nursery rhyme that you're interested in.